And I'm going to start with the tour because your recent stop was in Viroqua, which I got a bit of a tie to because my late father and his family is from Viroqua. So when I saw that, I went, "Oh,
Oh,
hey, I'm very familiar with that city." What was that show like?
that was really a beautiful show. I was kind of surprised that there was a venue sort of in the middle of this rural area in Viroqua. But it was this beautiful old theater, and we had a wonderful crowd. Everybody was so warm and nice, and I had not played there before, so it was a lovely night. I really was pleasantly surprised.
It's a place that's kind of become more, how do I put it, kind of artistic over time? Because I mean, it's your, and I say this as a Wisconsinite, it's your typical smaller Wisconsin town. But I've noticed a change from afar.
Hmm.
I've never lived there, but I've observed it from afar of kind of evolving that way. So I'm not
Hmm.
particularly surprised that it became a really nice venue for you to attend.
Yeah, it was a lovely show. I would definitely love to come back.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Nobody Owns You Now has been out for over a year. So now that it's been out in the world, if you will,
Hmm.
how do you reflect on the album a year plus into its release?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. It's an interesting time because when you first put a record out, you don't really know what people's responses are going to be, and sometimes you don't even know if it's any good or not. And it's hard to get perspective on something that you've been inside so deeply. But having toured this record and played a bunch of these songs live for people, it's just been really gratifying. And, in particular, when I do an autograph signing after the show, it's been great to see women bringing their daughters to the show and talking about the title track, Nobody Owns You. Also, fathers bringing their daughters to the show. And, that's, for me, as somebody who has a teenage daughter myself, that's just been so wonderful that song, which I wrote for my daughter, is now something that other families are kind of taking in, and looking at and appreciating within their own family.
So the next question was going to be which song seems to be resonating the most. You may have just answered the question, but is that the one from the album?
Well, it's not the only one that we play. We do, we play the opening track, which is called "I Should Have Danced More," and that gets a lot of great response too. We've been opening the show with that, and because it's a newer song and people don't necessarily know it, it's always great to hear this kind of surprised, energized response from the crowd when we finish the last chord of that song. People are like, oh, "Wow!" It's like, "Oh, something new, something surprising. I love it." So that's been great. And we also do the song "Woman's Work" sometimes, which is a bit more of a bluesy kind of thing, and talking about, it's maybe a little controversial, but it's talking about the imbalance that sometimes happens in people's homes, where the mom comes home after her full day of work, and she's got that second shift of doing all the stuff at home too, and that, I think, resonates with people, and we get a lot of comments from women and men after the show about that. So it's connecting with people on a lot of levels, and that's, I mean, again, that's so gratifying. That's what you want as an artist, is to have what you created bridge that gap between somebody that you maybe have never met and yourself, and leap across that divide and really connect with them.
Notice Nigel Dick listed at the end at the credits of "I Should Have Danced More." Immediately perked up because I remember seeing him on so many music video credits, especially back in the
Yeah.
'90s. How did you hook up with him to be the creative force behind that video?
Mm. Well, he's actually the neighbor of my current manager. So, they like hang out together. And my current manager mentioned that he was working with me, and Nigel was like, "Oh, I love her. Let's do something. Let's do something." And, this is a guy who's had multi-million-dollar video budgets and all of that. So we were not coming to him with anything like that, but he just wanted to do it for fun. So I was really grateful that he was excited enough about working with us to do it.
Great American cities. Okay, so I'm listening through every city that's mentioned. So, did you have like an idea towards this city has to be in this order to fit the rhythm or whatever? How did you come up with a list to do
Mm.
that?
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like what's the way that the syllables are going to work together, and how does it scan, and how can I sing this most effectively? What's the easiest way that I'm going to remember this list of cities? Because it's a long list. So yeah, we went through a couple of different iterations of that before we landed on the one that we recorded.
That reminds me of I was doing an interview with Tony Levin, and he had a similar-ish song. It was a speaking one, but he listed all the drummers he's worked with, and it was like 30 or 40 drummers in his career. And it's just like a list, but it's fascinating. I love those list songs because then it's like a different way to pay attention to that. I mean, have you ever taken an approach to a song like that in whether it's on a release or whatever, or is this a new I want to try a list?
Well, for me, the inspiration was that James Brown song "Night Train," where he goes through and lists, Miami, Florida, and Jackson, and all these different towns that he, that were stops on the train. And I always thought that was such a cool thing, because not only is it just cool to have it in a song, but then everybody who lives in those towns is waiting for their town to be listed, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, that's us." So I think it's just a fun thing to do.
It is. I love that. Like, how's you going to say this? And then the nicknames in there. That was a really cool concept. So, before I let you go, what's next? I know, obviously, big day. That's based on your social media, working on stuff especially for tomorrow. But then what else is coming up down the road artistically?
Yeah, well, I've got a few different irons in the fire. I'm working on a memoir and have been, doing that. So that's been a very interesting process to kind of dig into my own past and figure out how to write about my life. So I'm doing that. I'm a great advocate for this group, the Holmes Brothers. They were an amazing group that I got the chance to work with, and they were early mentors of mine, and I'm hoping to get a documentary about them off the ground. And then I'm also, writing songs, so always gathering bits and pieces to look towards the next record.
Perfect. Well, lots going on. Enjoy all the artistic endeavors going forward. And again, thanks for swinging by Viroqua, and hopefully you come back around here to Western Wisconsin, or maybe up here to Eau Claire. Joan Osborne, all the best going forward.
Thank you so much, Luke. It's been a